Hi, thank you. Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody. Okay, so we are on level 2, chapter 1, part 2. All right, you know part chapter 2, chapter 13, chapter 18, we will have two parts. Okay, chapter 2, we have 75 slokas. Therefore, we will be splitting that into, 72. Okay, all right, so let's take darshan of Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ISKCON Jagannath Mandir. All right, and this is Janmashtami dress. No, okay, peacock dress. Okay, this is Nitai Sundar Gaurahari. Haribol. Okay, let's offer prayers to the spiritual teachers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimade Bhaktivigna Vinasha Narsimha Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so the program is dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Okay, so we have a slide reading here. Okay, since we have a newcomer, let's hear her voice. Mataji, can you please read for us? Usually what happens is that later I can add you in our WhatsApp group. So every week I will I will assign the slokas for the members based on alphabetical order. So those who can recite the Sanskrit, they can proceed to recite it, chant it, and then followed by the English translation. If you have difficulty in reciting the Sanskrit sloka, you can proceed to read only the English translation. So for today, I actually missed out to assign this slide for reading. So is it okay, Mataji, to for you to read for us? How do we call you, Mataji? GU Mataji? Mataji? Are you there? You Mataji?
I forgot to unmute.
All right. So how do we call you?
Call me Yi Walu.
Okay, Yi Mataji. All right, Yi Mataji, would you like to read?
Yeah. Understanding of Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the best understood by a person who has qualified qualities similar to Arjuna's. That is to say, he must be a devotee in a direct relationship with the Lord. As soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he also has a direct relationship with the Lord. Like to continue?
Yes, Mataji.
That is a very elaborate subject matter. But briefly, it can be stated that a devotee is in a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of the 5 different ways. Number one may be a devotee in a passive state. Number 2, one may be a devotee in an active state. 3, one may be a devotee as a friend. 4, one may be a devotee as a parent. 5, one may be a devotee as a conjugal lover.
Yeah, conjugal lover. Thank you so much, Mataji. Okay, this is a little bit from the introduction. So Srila Prabhupada explains that how Arjuna is a friend of Krishna. Okay, so there are other types of relationship with Krishna. So there are 5 here. All right. So this is to say that a person has to be a devotee in a direct relationship. So how do we develop this direct relationship with Krishna? So these are the 5 ways. Okay, the first state is called passive. Okay, these are called 5 primary rasas. Rasas means taste, right? The mellow of relationship. Okay, there can be a whole class on this part alone, but just a brief introduction, because this is where you see how intimate the relationship between Arjuna and Krishna. Okay, so the first is passive state. This is like a person. Hold on, yeah. So Santaras, this is another name is Santaras. It is the appreciation of the Lord about his greatness, about his opulence, about his omnipotent nature, his kindness. So this is all awe and reverence. All right. So generally, people in this state, they appreciate God with a mood of awe and veneration. All right. They see the Lord as the merciful deliverer of the fallen souls. So what are the example is how one engages in reading scriptures, living in a peaceful place, keeping company with the saints, and then always think of the eternal form of Krishna. All right, they always thinking in that sense, mentally engaged. All right, so the examples in this state is yogis who meditate on Paramatma. Okay, so the Supreme Personality appears in this in his heart, in their heart. Who knows the term that we use? Which aspect of the Lord present in our heart? What is that? What we call that?
Super soul.
So clever. Thank you so much, Mataji. I'm so happy. Okay. So, so in spiritual world, for example, what kind of persons in this state? Like the trees, the flute, the cows. So they're all under this state. All right. All right. Okay, so when this awe and veneration or appreciation adds with service, because previously they were meditating, stuffs like that, right? So when you actively serve, then you are a devotee in active state. So you still have this reverence from here, from the Santaras, passive state. Or this is also can be called neutral, all right? When you add with active service, then you are in this active state. Okay, Dashyaras. Okay, later I will show you the Sanskrit terms for that. All right, as a friend, okay, friend is the third one. You know, for example, Krishna and Balarama, they fight with their boyfriends and then the Gopas, right, in Vrindavan, and then how Krishna have fights with his friends, and when he loses, then he has to carry his friend and run. So in this case, they have the reverence, all right, they have the service, but the service is more very informal, very intimate. There is no formality between them. So that's why this one pastime when Krishna lost to Sudama, he will be carrying Sudama on his back and be running. They'll be crossing the river. So it's very informal. So this is where you can see how Arjuna and Krishna, they are friends, cousins and friends. So this is friends. It's a very playful relationship. They share jokes, they share adventures. Okay, so they don't see Krishna as supreme personality. They don't have that formality. Okay, so that is Sakya, like Saki, Saka. Saka is boys, boyfriends, Saki is girlfriends. All right, so Sakyaras. Next, as a parent, you can love Krishna as a parent. So who can give me the example of devotees who love Krishna as a parent?
Yashoda.
Correct. All right. So they don't see the Lord as their protector. They feel that they are the one going to protect Krishna. They see Krishna, oh, he's just this helpless child. I need to protect him. Oh, and then you know, there's one Tamil song also, right? The Yashoda mother, she will tell Krishna, please don't go out. It's too hot, and then there will be you'll be pricked by thorns and this poking stones, and there'll be thieves will be attacking you, and then you'll be attacked by demons. Thieves will kidnap you. You know, she will be like so concerned about it. She doesn't want him to go out. So that is the concern that devotees in the parental mode. Okay, so that is a devotee as a parent. Okay, and last is conjugal lover. It is very intimate. It's an intimate relationship. For example, we have gopis. They are very intimate. So basically, all the Vaishnava acharyas are saying we can go up to parental only. This is too high level. Okay, so can go up to parental only. But how do we know which particular relationship that we actually have with Krishna? That we will only know when our hearts are truly purified. All right, so until then, we are mostly here. Number 2, we want to serve Krishna. Okay.
Yes.
Dasya, right. So I will show you now the Sanskrit terms, Santaras, Dashyaras. That's why if you see the devotees, when they are initiated, the spiritual masters will give them some name with the Dasa at the back. Dasa means servant, or for a lady, it will be Dasi, Devi Dasi. So they are servants, okay? And then we have Sakyaras, we have Vatsalyaras, and we have Madhuryaras. Okay, so this is very briefly. So we have one particular relationship with Krishna. So when our heart is purified, we will know our true relationship with Krishna. So in whatever case, we want to serve Krishna in whatever case. You can see in all the states there are, all of them are selfless. Everybody wants to serve Krishna. And then one more thing I can add here is that Dashya Ras, the epitome of this Ras is Lord Hanuman. All right, he is the first class servant. He is very selfless. Okay, let's move on. This is the recap of chapter 1. So you all remember what are the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita? Can anybody put in the chat in one line? Tama guessing, one line. Give me all 5.
5
Who's
topics.
the winner? Who's the winner? Or you can unmute and tell me also, if that's quicker for you. Mataji's?
Ishvara,
Prabhu's?
Jiva,
Okay.
Prakriti, Karma and Kala.
Ishwara?
Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Karma and Kala.
Very good, Mataji. Okay. Right. So why I always repeat this to remember, so that you will know what is the summum bonum of this knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. Even if you want to tell people, when people ask you what is in Bhagavad Gita, so you pick this, keep that in your fingers. All right. So you click, just remember one, and you can start talking already. It will come to you with Prabhupada mercy, Krishna's mercy. It will come to you. So these are the keywords. Okay. And then what else we saw last week? We saw blind Dhritarashtra, about blind Dhritarashtra, how he is not only materially blind, he is also spiritually blind. And then how the battlefield of Kurukshetra, or the field of Kurukshetra, is very significant in this chapter. Okay, how it is seen as favorable for the Pandavas. And then we saw the 9 signs of victory. So Kurukshetra is one of it. Actually, it's 5. 5. I'm so sorry. It's 5 actually. 9 is more of expanded. But I just wanted to make you all remember there are only 5. Can anybody tell me what are the 5? This one, I don't know if I should expect you all to remember everything, but you can just put 1 or 2, whatever that you remember.
Kurukshetra itself, the battlefield itself.
Right. Okay. Yes, Mataji. Anything else?
Hanuman on the flag.
Very good. Yes. Next, Mataji.
Krishna support.
Correct. Krishna himself. 2 more.
The chariot. The
Yeah,
chariot
chariot.
is made by
One
Arjuna.
more.
The conch shell.
Conch shell. Very good, Sobhita Mataji. Yes, Madhava means husband of goddess of fortune. So wherever Madhava is, goddess of fortune comes. So wherever Krishna is, victory and opulence are with you. Victory and fortune are with you. All right. So that's a quick recap. Oh yeah, Arjuna symptoms. How many are there? I think it's very easy, right? Just tell me a few. Okay, my connection showed unstable, so just alert me, okay? Then I'll just pause for a while. Did you all hear what I said? I wanted you all to tell me any of those symptoms.
Gandiva bar falling down from his hand.
Yes.
Hair stand on
And
end.
standing up.
Yeah, all these. Sorry, Mataji. Yeah, all these were happening because he's feeling compassionate to his friends and family. So all these come from there. Yes, Sobhita Mata, fear of sinful action. No, these are the reasons that he didn't want to fight. Okay,
His
now
body
we go.
trembling.
Yes, body is trembling, hair standing on end. Apa lagi?
Skin burning.
Skin is burning. Very good.
Mind is confused.
Yeah, mind is reeling, right? And then losing.
He's shivering.
Yeah, yes, trembling, shivering,
Sam.
losing composure, losing myself, something like that, right? Okay, and then we have reasons. How many reasons are those? Are there?
5.
5.
Yeah. I want full. Of course, we know C is compassion, E is enjoyment, can you all write down full? Means compassion for
Friends.
friends and relatives. Correct.
Compassion to friends and relatives.
So what
No
E has?
enjoyment even after victory.
Very good. No
Fear
enjoyment.
of sinful reaction. Fear of sinful
Yeah,
sinful
reactions.
Reaction.
reaction.
Yes, correct.
And,
Kavita Mataji also got it.
Destruction of family tradition.
Very good. Finally,
indecisiveness.
yes. So we already saw CESD last week in chapter 1. So we will see the I today. So that with that, we are entering part 1 of chapter 2. Okay, so if you compare with your, basically here Krishna will talk about, he gave so many reasons, right? 5 reasons to fight, right? Now Krishna is giving jnana. With this knowledge of jnana, fight. And then next Krishna will give knowledge of karma. Then he will say fight. And then he will give knowledge of buddhi yoga, fight. And then he will talk about samadhi, also fight. So Krishna gives so many reasons why and why you need to fight. Okay, so if I just want to expand that, you can see in level 1, you only covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 verses. So like today itself, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is how we go deeper and we expand the knowledge for level 2. Okay, so first section, we will see how Arjuna put forth his further doubts, all right, the indecisiveness, and then however he will surrender to Krishna because he cannot make a decision. All right, and then Krishna starts talking. Krishna opens the chapter with the jnana yoga. Okay, this is also called Sankhya philosophy, where Krishna will give very technical knowledge about soul and body. All right, after that he will go into karma kanda, why you should fight. Okay, which element that Krishna is refuting here, so all these arguments Krishna is putting forth to refute Arjuna's reasons, 5 reasons. Okay, here Krishna will be refuting 2. Okay, buddhi yoga we will see next week. We will start with 2.2. I think it's Meera Mataji, is it? Let me see. Oh, Jaishana Mataji. Okay, Mataji is not here. कुतस्वाकश्मलम् इदं विषमे समुपस्थितम् अनार्यजुष्टम् अस्वर्ग्यम् आकीर्तिकरम् Arjuna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy." Okay, if you remember in chapter 1, how Arjuna was feeling very distressed. He didn't know what he should do. And then he put down his bow, and then eyes full of tears. Then finally now Krishna is speaking to him. Okay, so Lord Krishna is now describing Arjuna's condition, that he is being influenced by these impurities. Okay, impurities. Why this has come upon Arjuna? Because Arjuna identifies himself with his body, relatives, friends. So that's why all these confusions came about. Okay, so in 2.1, which we did not cover here, in 2.1, Sanjaya will explain this way. Seeing Arjuna full of compassion. That means Krishna knows, oh my God, my friend is full of compassion. He's such a nice devotee. He's feeling compassionate towards everybody. I can see that his mind is depressed, his eyes full of tears. So the sloka goes like that. Seeing Arjuna full of compassion. This is Sanjaya speaking, yeah. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana Krishna spoke the following words. So the significant word here that that Sanjaya used is Madhusudana. So Madhusudana means the killer of the demon Madhu. So every demon that Krishna annihilate signifies a certain element, a certain bad elements. So in this case, Madhusudana means the killer of the demon of misunderstanding. So that is why Sanjaya cleverly used this word Madhusudana. He's telling Dhritarashtra, because Dhritarashtra might be feeling happy already. Oh, right, Arjuna started thinking about it. Probably he'll back off. He probably wouldn't want to proceed with the battle. But Sanjaya cuts in and say, seeing this situation that Arjuna is in, Krishna, the Madhusudana, is speaking, which means this is like a trailer that Sanjaya is indicating to the Dhritarashtra that now you see all the doubts of Arjuna is going to disappear like a dew in the morning sun. This is an indication. The significance of the word Madhusudana. So like this in Bhagavad Gita, there will be so many names referring to Krishna and Arjuna, both of them, and everything represents some good qualities of these two personalities. Okay, so now Krishna is speaking. Oh, how can these impurities come upon you, Krishna? Arjuna, you are such a strong person. How can this come upon you? Like that. Okay, so we will see how Krishna starts. So anyways, Arjuna has nothing to worry because Krishna is there. All right, so we can see here, how does it apply? Right, final sentiments like compassion, although noble, of course, there's nothing wrong with being compassionate, but it's always a time, place, and circumstance. That is why we have this application point here. Final sentiments like compassion, although noble, are worthless if applied in an ignorant way. So you have to be careful where we are applying this. Okay, whether kena tempat or not. Okay, so the Dhritarashtra was happy when Arjuna put down his bow, but Sanjaya said, wait a minute, Krishna is going to speak now. Okay, like that. Okay, 2.6. This is the fifth decision. Fifth reason. Mahana Mataji, are you there? Mataji is not here. Okay. All right, so I'll just go to the translation. Yeah. Arjuna said, okay, so we have skipped few slokas, right? So Arjuna we are coming to the point where Arjuna is talking about him being indecisive. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. So this is two things that he cannot make decision. Okay, if we kill the sons of the Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. So he's very spiteful of this. What kind of lowly action I am going to perform, killing people? All right, so Arjuna had his reason for not fighting. Now he's giving another reason, to conquer or not to conquer. So it's a dilemma for Arjuna. He couldn't decide what to do. All right, but he is fortunate that Bhagavan himself is next to him and he is there driving his chariot. So he's going to help him now. Okay, because previously in 2.4, Arjuna will ask, how can I counteract my friends and relatives with this arrow? You know, I'm going to counteract people like great personalities like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship. He's worshipping them. How are you going to launch your arrows on them? Okay, so these are the things that happened between 2.2 and 2.6. So finally he says, I'm so indecisive, I cannot make my decision. Okay, so what is the application here? So the Arjuna's condition illustrates the result of selfish consciousness, because he's very self-concentrated, self-centered, right? He wants to only do good things for himself. He wants to save himself from doing these bad things. Frustration and inability to reach sound conclusion. Okay, so when the mind is not clear, you are not able to arrive at a sound conclusions because you have frustration, we have some inabilities. Okay, and we are identifying ourselves with our bodily conditions. Okay, these are all attachments. So it's not only attachment to the body, we are also attached to the relatives and friends, like how that's what Arjuna is indicating here. Okay, so which will bring us to the last reason. Okay, so this is a recap, so you can actually take a few seconds to look at it. Compassion for friends and relatives, no enjoyment even if victorious, fear of sinful reactions, destruction of family traditions, indecision. Okay, so we are moving where Arjuna truly surrenders. Meera Mataji.
Karpanya doso pahata swabhava.
It's okay, Mata, you can just read because this is the longer one. It's not the usual length.
I can read the translation or shall I?
Yes, can, yes.
Now I'm confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. And this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is the best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me.
All right, thank you, Mataji. So from 2.6 to 2.7, you can see that Arjuna is perplexed. He's in a situation that he's in the T junction. He doesn't know whether to turn left or right. He's perplexed. But you can see from here, please instruct me, which means he is eager for enlightenment. He is perplexed, yet eager for enlightenment. So this indicates that when we have an issue, when we have a problem, we don't sit and try to solve by ourselves, and we clearly know that we cannot solve it. So we seek a higher authority to help us, to assist us. So that's where Arjuna, he knows his situation, his limitation. So he needs to surrender to Krishna to get clear instruction. Then he says, I'm your disciple. I am surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Okay, we saw how Arjuna was so confused. He didn't know what to do. But he's already in the middle of the battlefield. And to turn or to continue, all right, he is supposed to fight. Right? He has actually understood his problem. What is the problem? That he has lost his composure due to miserly weakness. So earlier he was giving a lot of reasons. All right, and then because of the reason, he couldn't make a decision. Why he cannot make a decision? He thinks he knows that he has a limitation. And what is the limitation? That he has lost his composure, and he knows why he lost his composure, because of his miserly weakness. So like that, if you have done Lean Six Sigma, have you done Six Sigma? Have you heard of that? Then you have this fishbone analysis. What is the root cause for this? What is the root cause for this? What is the root cause for this? Until then, you have to find where is the final root cause. There is no root cause after that. So the root cause of this situation is Arjuna's miserly weakness. What is miserly weakness? Identification with his body, the bodily attachment. So he feels that the body is not meant to fight. All right. However, Arjuna is intelligent enough to surrender to Lord Krishna. Okay, please accept me as your disciple and instruct me. Okay. Arjuna is also fortunate because he's directly in touch with Krishna and he can surrender to Krishna at that point. All right. But we don't have Bhagwan with us. We don't have Lord Krishna with us physically like Arjuna. So what do? We need to find a representative and surrender to that person. Okay. Surrender means, what is surrender? Surrender means take instruction from someone. Here, surrender unto you. Please instruct me. Okay. So oftentimes people want to give instruction. They don't want to take instruction. So when you accept a guru, you surrender and you render service, and he will impart you the knowledge, which means it could be instructions. Okay, so far clear? All right, this is the point where when Arjuna surrenders, Krishna's role changes from being a friend to guru. This is the turning point. Okay, so after this, Krishna will start talking. Who's turn, Mataji? Shanti Mataji.
Can I read the translation, please?
Yes, can.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead.
Okay, so Krishna is saying, this is pretty heavy actually. Now Krishna is taking the position of a teacher. Arjuna wants to be the disciple, so Krishna must be the teacher. Now the fact is that the business of the teacher is not to flatter the students. All right, the business of teacher is to find the fault in student, point out and rectify that. So now Bhagwan is finding fault in Arjuna. All right, because he saw how Arjuna was putting forth all his arguments, how the destruction of family happens, like very nicely he put forth all the point, very systematically. Okay, all right. However, Krishna cuts off all that and he says to him very plainly, oh, you are speaking like you are so learned, but actually there is no meaning in it. Like that, there is not, it is whatever you are mourning for, it's not worthy of grief. All right, so remember Arjuna was lamenting and thinking, I don't want to fight, I don't want to kill anybody, right? So Krishna tells Arjuna here, someone who is wise. You're speaking like a learned person, but if you're truly a wise person, the person will not lament for the people who are alive or dead. Okay, they won't. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. All right, so this is where Krishna will be talking about the nature of the soul, the difference between soul and the body. So before we go to the technical knowledge about the soul, we just recap a little bit here. Okay, so when one realizes that there is no shelter in the material world, all right, including in your mind, you cannot take shelter in your mind, you cannot take shelter with your intelligence. We have to take full shelter of spiritual authority, because you cannot find material answers to your solutions. It has to be a spiritual solution. Okay, so now Krishna is taking the position as the teacher. So in the first place, what did he do? He plainly cuts off Arjuna's learned words. He actually, what a teacher will do is that, as a first step, he will dismantle students' misconception, which may require strong words. So if you can see, you are um, you are speaking like a learned person. That's pretty heavy, right? So guru means heavy, but you will see, you have done level 1, right? You know, sometimes Krishna will ask questions in between. Are you clear? Do you understand? Have you listened clearly? Like, you can see the questions that Krishna asks is so kind, but in the first place he was pretty heavy. All right, so that is required. Okay, and then next, that he says to Arjuna that all these arguments, this lamentation is not worthy. Okay, it's not totally worthy of being said. Why? Because those who are wise, they lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Right? Okay, let's move to 2.12. 2.12, Rasini Mataji.
नात्व एवाहं जातनासं नात्वं नेमे जनाधिपः न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयम् अतः परम्. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be.
Thank you, Mataji. So this is the opening for the soul chapter. Now, in 2.11, 2.11 is more like a introduction 2.12 for 2.12, where he says about a learned person will not lament for the living nor the dead. All right, so that is an indication already. To
Excuse me,
tell,
Ji, I just want to ask the 2.11, right?
yeah,
Remember, Krishna says you cannot lament for. Can you go back to that slide? Can you go back?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He says that you cannot lament for, you cannot mourn for what is not worthy of grief. That means he's trying to say that Dhritarashtra's sons are so wicked, so evil, that there's no point that you have to please them or please your Dronacharya. That's what he says.
Yes, because they are already very old. All right, they should be, you know, old people. And they are at the wrong side. So even if you kill them, they will get new body, a fresh body. So which is good for them, right? Because the soul keeps on living. Only the body they are changing. So that is why Krishna is indicating here there is no point you lament for the old body. That is the point.
Oh, that's why he's saying that don't worry about the relations. Don't worry about you're going to disrupt the family traditions, because those family traditions will be continued even if you sever it. That's what he's trying to say.
Yes, that's right, Mataji.
But how do we apply it in this modern world, Ms. Mataji? Because
This is basically bodily attachment, right? Because sometimes we have because Arjuna's point here is that these people that he's going to kill is so much worthy of his worship. All right, so it indicates that these people they are doing a lot of wrong things. There's so much of wrongdoings. So it's you have to kill them because you need to re-establish dharma. So their death is required. It's
Okay.
adharmic. So therefore you need to remove them. This is like the field, is like a paddy field, and these are the weeds. So Krishna wants Arjuna to remove these weeds.
Okay, fine.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, so Krishna now going to start talking. Okay, you have said a lot of points already. Now let me speak. Okay, so this is the first piece of knowledge that Lord Krishna is giving to Arjuna. All right, so Lord Krishna here, he's establishing the eternal nature of the soul of every living entity. Okay, what is he saying here is that there was never a time where you never exist, okay, that I never exist, and all these kings and soldiers here, which means, in other words, I am always existing, you are always existing, they are also existing. All right, the only difference is that, of course, that the living entities change the body. So which shows that when you see you, them, he's referring to something else other than the body. The body is changing, the body is not eternal, but the soul in the body is eternal. All right, so with that, Lord Krishna is establishing the eternal nature of the soul. So this is the very first instruction, very basic and very important. Okay, so in the past, he's saying in the past I was Krishna, in the present I am Krishna, in the future I will be Krishna. In the past you are the person inside you, Arjuna. In the present you are Arjuna. In the future you will be Arjuna. All the kings are fighting here. They were individuals in the past, right? They are individuals in the present, and will continue to be individuals in the future. So in other words, we are all eternally spiritual individuals. All right, so you also, me, Kasturi Krishna Devidasi, and you all, Meera Mataji, Rasini Mataji, Sharmila Mataji, you all have existed also. Now you're existing and you will continue to exist. Only thing will have different bodies. You're changing dress. Okay, so we move to 2.13. We have actually Naveen Prabhu to present. Mahaprabhu is not here, I think. Prabhu, are you here? Okay, Prabhu is supposed to present the sloka today. Okay, anybody would like to present what is your understanding? This is a revision sloka from our level 1. Very, very easy. Shall I select somebody? Rasini Mataji. Okay.
Yeah. So what should I do, Mataji?
You can read. You can read the translation also, and then you can just explain in maybe 1 minute what is your understanding about this.
Okay, I'll read first, Mataji.
Yes.
So, Dehinosmin yata dehi kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dirasrasratamuhyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in the body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Okay, what I understand from this is from birth until
just hold on.
death.
There's a noisy mic around. Wait. Okay, Mataji. Sorry. Okay, carry on.
From birth until death, okay, we have our childhood, then we grow up, then one day we get old and then we die. So in this phase, the body has this one soul, but after this body expires, the soul will go into another body. So it's like tukar baju like that, salin pakaian like that. So just like we salin pakaian like that, the soul also will salin badan. So a sober person is not bewildered by such changes. A person who is aware of such reality, a person who is spiritually strong and aware of such reality, is not shaken by, it's like not terganggu, is not disturbed by such a reality, and will be aware of it and will live with that awareness. That's what I understand.
Wow, this is awesome. Thank you, Rasini Mataji. Yes, you have all the points. So basically, we are changing the body. Okay, we means the soul. Okay, so the soul will change the body. So with this, Krishna is refuting Arjuna's first reason, compassion. Okay, so I don't have to elaborate because this is a repeating verse and Rasini Mataji also explained. Okay, so I think it's pretty clear. So if you remember the cage and the bird, so this person was taking care of the cage. All right, so one day he noticed the parrot has died. So the question is, What happened to the bird? He's taking care of the cage nicely. Yeah, because he was just taking care of the cage, the external part, but he did not feed the parrot. So similarly, our body is the cage. So we are so engrossed in taking care of the cage, we forget to take care of the soul inside our body. We forgot to feed the soul. All right, so that will be a spiritual death. Okay, spiritual suicide. And then you can see how from the baby, it goes to the boyhood, and then the youthhood and the adulthood, and then goes down again, and go up again, goes down again. So the soul, our body changes. That means one person, we are one person, the soul changing different stage. Okay, so later what happens? All right, the soul will go jump to another body. Okay, it doesn't only change to human body, it can go to any species of life. Human species alone, there are 400,000 species. Okay, so you can imagine, I don't know which species we are. All right, however, if we are sitting here, means it's something really special. Okay, not everybody, definitely animals cannot. Okay, not all human can. So we are here. Okay, that's something truly special. Okay, now talking about the soul is seeing everything. All right, the fact is that we cannot expect to see everything using our eyes. Sometimes you use microphone, sometimes you use telescope, but there are certain things that you cannot see with material means. So there are so many things present around us that we can't see. All right, most people are able to understand that there is soul in the body. Okay, oh, there's soul. Yeah, okay, I know. But then they will ask. Some people, they believe it. Some people, the non-believer, they'll ask, where is the soul? I can't see the soul. Can you show me the soul? How do you know there's soul? Is there evidence the soul is seen? So they ask this kind of questions. All right, so we have to point out that there are so many things outside there that we can't see, but they do exist. Like in the body, we have mind, we have intelligence. Can you see it? We can't see them, but the presence is felt. It's definitely there. All right, so one time Prabhupada went to a university preaching program. He asked this question: what is the difference between living body and a dead body? Apparently, nobody were able to give the answer. All right, and then Prabhupada gave that answer that that within a dead body, there is no soul. The body is there, right? There is no soul. There is no feel. The body doesn't move anymore. How do we know there is a soul in a living body? How do we know there is a soul in a living body? How do we know there's a soul? I'm talking here. So what is the evidence that I have soul? Okay, the soul can be understood through the presence of what? I think this question also I asked previously. Who knows? What is a symptom of soul? How do we know the body has a soul inside? How do you know the body has no soul inside?
Consciousness.
Correct. Wow. Awesome, Mataji. Correct. So consciousness is the symptom of soul. Please remember this. All right. You know, sometimes you see a body, dead body, right? Now why we say, oh, he's gone. Ayo, Puitani. Why? Oh, he's there only. Where he's gone, he's there only. So what has gone? The soul has left, right? So you can see that we are actually referring to him as the thing, that element, the substance that has left the body. The body is there. So how much importance we should give to the soul of the people around us, the soul of the people that we love. All right, you have to give the basic requirements for the body, but more so important is to give something for their soul. Okay. All right, so people want to understand the soul. They need to understand the soul. They need to hear about the soul. All right, just like we hear the message of Bhagavad Gita, how we are hearing. All right, so by hearing the message from Bhagavad Gita, we hear about the soul. The Bhagavad Gita gives the knowledge of the soul. All right, it's science always try to create things, right? They want to create living things. So they are not successful to do it because there is no soul. You can't put some elements, mix, match. You can't create a living entity. You can't do that. So you need soul to create the life. All right. So with that, we have to understand that the soul is not material. The soul is spiritual. The body destroyed, but the soul goes out. So in level 1, we saw what is the evidence that the soul has left another body and coming to another body. Because the soul can remember what has happened, in the life of the previous body. So that is an evidence. That's a modern life evidence. All right. If people don't believe in scriptural evidence, then this is modern life evidence. So we cannot see the soul with our eyes. We cannot measure the weight of the soul. We cannot, which means we cannot simply depend on our eyes to get all the knowledge. To get the perfect knowledge, it requires hearing. Okay. So like I think this one is showing that certain decibels that we cannot hear, dogs can hear like that. And yeah, now this virus is very famous, right? Can we see? You need like things like microscope, stuffs like that, right? So certain things you can't see. Okay, all right, so we move on to point 17. Now Krishna is going to talk about the characteristics of the soul. Sharmila Mataji is not here, right? That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So remember, I was talking about the symptom of the soul. All right, the soul powers the body. All right, the powering the body is called consciousness. The soul powers the body through consciousness. All right, so this is what Krishna is talking here. That which pervades the entire body, that gives light, the power to the entire body, that element is imperishable, is indestructible, is eternal. Okay, the soul is situated in the region of the heart. All right, the soul, from the soul comes the consciousness. That is the symptom. So remember that. And then that consciousness spread throughout the body. It spreads right to the tips of your fingers, to your toes, to the head, all over the body. So all this coming from the soul, and the soul is situated in the region of the heart. So there can be questions that if we do heart transplant, will the soul transfer to another body? It doesn't, because the soul, the heart is an organ, it's a material organ. All right, the soul is in the region of the heart. It's a spiritual element. So when the heart is transferred, the soul still stays there. The soul is immovable. We will see that later, one of the characteristics. All right, so when we fall down, the soul doesn't fall. All right, so it's immovable in that sense. So when you do transplant, you don't transfer the character of the person, right? You only transfer the organ, so it's material. So it's in the region of the heart. It's not technically inside the heart, right? Okay, so that's clear, right? Okay, we go to 2.22. We have somebody. Sharmila Mataji.
Me.
Tepukan gemuruh untuk Sharmila Mataji.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mataji.
Yay!
Hey.
Okay, let me start.
Yes.
Chapter 2, text 22. Vasham Shijina Niyata Vihaya Navani Gunati Naro Parani Tata Sharirani Vihaya Chenani Anyani Samyati Navani Vihi. Okay, so translation. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Okay, so for this, right, I just wanted to remind back on the two bird story.
Okay.
So compare the soul and the super soul to the two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is the witnessing bird, and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is the servant. Forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another. So in this sense, from one body to another body. Okay, so continuing. So Jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntarily surrendering onto Krishna for the instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. So what do I understand from this is like what earlier Rashni Mataji mentioned as well. our body our soul moves from one body to another, as in changing clothes. Yeah, so that's all.
All right, that's great. That's
Thank
on
you,
point.
Mataji.
Yeah, that is the point actually. Vasan sejernani atau vihaya means we are changing the body like the soul is changing body like we change clothes. So when we throw away our old, torn, damaged clothes, we don't cry for it. All right, so it's not wise to do that. All right, so you can see the picture here. Our soul is transmigrating from animal species to animal species to human species, all right, and then go back to animal species. It all depends on what kind of activities we conduct throughout our life. All right, as a person puts on new garments and giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. All right, so death is basically a change of the body. Give up the old, take a new body. So there is no reason to lament when we are giving up the old body. Okay, so we don't lament like this. We don't lament over the old t-shirt. All right, so Lord Krishna is presenting these points to defeat Arjuna's point of compassion. All right, because he was so compassionate, isn't he? He was very compassionate that he's going to kill his relatives, his friends, his worshipful personalities. All right, so it's good for people to have new body. That's why Krishna is telling, okay, these personalities like Bhishma and Drona, they are old, they are at the wrong side. They are not really upholding the dharma. Okay, they are being adharmic. Okay, and so it's good to kill them and let them have fresh body. Okay, anyhow, when they are killed in the battlefield, they will go to heavenly planet, so you don't have to feel sorry about it. All right, so the same thing is like we have this example of driver and car and this person drowning in water. Okay, so if somebody is sometimes when you drive in the car and then you feel like the palang gonna hit the car, right, and then suddenly you duck, right? It's because you identify that it's gonna duck, it's gonna hit you, right? It's gonna hit the car. So when this happens, when we identify that we are the car, like that, so like that we are identifying that we are the body. All right, and then when we give up the old and useless car, we don't lament for it. We're gonna go for a new car. Everybody's gonna be happy with a new car. Okay, so another example is this person is drowning in the water. You don't go and take his coat. I'm just gonna save his outer dress. No, you need to save the person. The person is that soul. All right, so you need to save him, all right, so that he can be alive. So we don't want to lament to the lost coat or the lost car. All right, discarded car. Okay, right, so that's the two examples. Okay, let's see what is the application. Oh my god, so sorry, I cannot see here. Let's see here. Compassion for the dress of drowning man is senseless. Similarly, a man fallen in the ocean of nescience cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outer dress. Okay, so I explained that already. Okay, let's move on to more characters of the soul. Is that Sobita Mataji? Yeah, Sobita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Okay, so text 2.23, it says that the soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon. Weapon is like nuclear weapons and also other biological weapons. If we use that, so we cannot cut the soul into pieces. The reason being that individual souls are separated parts of the supreme soul. This is because that the atomic souls, they present eternally, which means they are covered by illusionary energy and not associated with the Supreme Lord. And then even after being lifted from illusion, they still, the living entity remains as separate identities. And that is the explanation for text 2.23. Now text 2.24 is the individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and it neither can be burned or dried. So the reason being that even after liberation, the atomic soul prefers to stay as a spark among the rays of Lord Krishna. So the living entities are all over the God's creations, such as living entities can be in the air, in water, in the land, or within fire. This is because that within fire, the living entities can live on the sun planet with suitable and adapting bodies. And then lastly, text 2.25, it is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. And therefore, we should not grieve for the body. As you mentioned just now, the garment story. So this is because no source of understanding the soul except reading the Vedas, and no change in the soul because living entities, our soul doesn't change. And this is the main reason why it cannot be associated with Lord Krishna. That's all, Mataji.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. So Mataji has given explanation. So we can see that it cannot be cut by weapons. Very good that Mataji mentioned that by this gross weapon and also biological weapon. That's a very good point, right? So nowadays we have biological war. How? All right, so you can destroy the body but not the soul, right? You cannot burn it. Like Mataji said, there are souls, there are living entities on the sun planet because they can adapt, right? We cannot go to the sun planet. That doesn't mean that there is no living entity on that planet, right? It's just like we cannot stay in the water, but fish can stay in the water, isn't it? So similarly, if you come out from the planet, you will have to know that there are living entities in the sun planet as well. Okay, so that means it's a good point that Mataji mentioned that it's not burnt. Okay, you cannot burn it. All right, you cannot moisten by water. It doesn't, get moist, tak jadi lembab like that, right? Not withered by the wind. So just because the wind blows, suddenly our soul falls out from our body. So that kind of thing doesn't happen. All right, you cannot break it, right? And insoluble. Okay, you cannot dilute it. You cannot burn it. You cannot dry it. He's everlasting. He's all this, he's not this, not that. So what is he? He's everlasting. He's present everywhere. He's unchangeable. It doesn't change. You don't mutate the soul. Okay, it's immovable. It's eternally the same. Okay, the soul is invisible. You cannot see the soul by material means. You see this guy is having microscope. You cannot see that. Why? Because the size is so tiny. What does this indicate? 10,000 here. Who can tell? What is this 10,000 here?
Tip of the hair.
Yeah. So what is the size of the tip of the hair, Mataji?
Cut into 10,000 pieces.
Correct. So you
Tiny
cut
as
that.
that.
You cut that into 10,000 pieces. That 1/10,000 is the size of the soul. Memang cannot see. All right. So it's why we are saying it's inconceivable. Such a tiny spark can power the entire body. It can power up a virus like COVID. It can power up a tiny amoeba, and it can power up the huge whale, huge elephant. All right. So you can see the power of the soul. All right, so we cannot understand the soul simply by the power of our mind. Okay, all right, and it's immutable. Okay, there is no mutation. All right, so a lot of people, most of the time we are so attached to the body. We want to take care of the body, but we don't want to know, we don't want to think about the soul. All right, the attachment is not only towards our body, it's also towards family, relatives, etc. A lot of other things. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can be neglectful of this relationship that you have in your life. Of course, we all need to have, we need to take care of the duties that we have, our responsibilities to take care of their souls. All right, and we have to share this knowledge to them. Okay, so that is the actual care, that is the actual compassion that we can apply in our life. Okay, so the size, it is mentioned in the Upanishad, Svetasvatara Upanishad. So basically, Bhagavad Gita is condensed version. So if you want to read more, then you have to go and refer the other references. Okay. Okay, 2.27. I think Mataji is not here. Hold on. Let me see who's that. Suhasini Mataji not here. Okay. Okay, so this is still on the soul. One who has taken his birth is sure to die. Okay, everybody agree on that, right? Nobody is immortal. And after death, one is sure to take birth again. So this is the knowledge from Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, In the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. They are going to die anyway. I'm just asking you to do your duty. So in that sense, you should not lament. All created beings are unmanifest in the beginning. Unmanifest means they were created, but they have not manifested. Okay, they are with the Lord, but they have not manifested. And then they manifest in their interim state, like us, we all manifest. Okay, and then we become unmanifest again when everything goes in, when pralaya happens, everything goes into the mouth of Vishnu, right? So that is unmanifest. It's not a destruction, it's unmanifest. So we were unmanifested and manifested and unmanifest, right? So, but we are always existing. So what is the need for lamentation? All right, so when we take birth, we accept material body, and when we don't take material body, we exist in a different state. So that's the difference, that is the point. Okay, so nothing much here to elaborate. We move on to, however, we have to take point here. There is a focus point here actually. That doesn't mean we can go around and killing everybody. All right, so we shouldn't misunderstand that. Okay, despite saying all this, we need to take note that unnecessary violence is not necessary. Okay, I can kill him, he's gonna die, and then he's gonna get a new body. So you cannot apply that philosophy here everywhere. All right, this verse does not support the happenings of slaughter, murder, and war, and unnecessary war. So this definitely does not help or does not support. So this war is based on dharmic religious principles. Is based on religious principle, not whimsical war. Okay, of course Krishna is there, so definitely it's not adharmic. All right, so in this case, why this war is inevitable is to re-establish the dharma. Okay, and all right, and then as a Satriya, that is Arjuna's duty. He has to perform his duty. All right, so in that sense, he does not have to be very fearful about his sinful reactions. Okay, there won't be sinful reactions because he's only killing adharmic people and under the directions of Krishna. Okay, all right, so he did not break any laws. Okay, he was simply carrying out the will of the Supreme. Okay, so we have this very short story here. This is the story of Maharaj Chitraketu. I'm not sure we have done this in level 1. This is a story where this king, Chitraketu Maharaj, he was very depressed that he doesn't have a son. All right, then he kept on, he married many queens to get son, but he did not. So what happens, this two personalities came by, because they were seeing this Chitraketu Maharaj was so morose. He asked, what's wrong, what do you want, ask any boon, we will give you. And then this because he was so depressed that he doesn't have a son, so he asked, I want a son. All right, so they gave a boon that he will get a son, and with that boon, his first queen managed to conceive a son, and then she gave birth to a son, to a prince. But what happened is that because he had so many other wives, right? So this queen, they grew envious about this queen who gave birth to a son, who managed to give birth to a son, managed to conceive and give birth to a son, and they actually poisoned the baby. Right, the baby, a child, all right, the baby, and then the baby died. All right, of course, after so long, he's managed to get a son, and then finally the baby died. He's definitely gone into depression again. All right, so he was lamenting, and again Angira Muni and Narada Muni came asking, what happened? Oh, my son has died. All right, so what do I do now? You know, I'm so morose now, I'm so sad now. All right, so long story short, by the mystic power of Narada Muni, the dead child entered the body again. So the dead baby became alive again. All right, so how Narada Muni welcomed the baby? Oh, living entity, now that you are back, see how you have made the relatives and your father and mother very sad. And this time, when the baby comes to the palace, reappeared in the body of the baby, the palace light up with so much of effulgence. And then uniquely, the baby started talking. Father and mother? Which father and mother? I have taken so many lives in the past. I have gone into animal body, I have gone into so many human body, I have gone to heavenly planets, and then I have come again in human body. So which father and mother are you talking about? All right, so I am taking birth because of my karmic reactions. Okay, I have had so many father and mother in the past. Sometimes I came as vegetables, sometimes I come as human species, sometimes I come as animals. So how can I accept these two peoples as my parents? Parents from which life? So like this, the baby started talking very learned words. Okay, so finally, what happens is that King Chitraketu understood his attachment that he had for the son, this bodily conceptions. And then finally, the child left the body. All right, after speaking this, after preaching about this soul, different lives, the transmigrations. So he left the body. Okay, so this is to show that even the king can fall into this kind of attachments. Okay, so that's the story. This is from Bhagavatam. All right, so let's move to 2.31. Divyashini Mata is not here. Okay, so this is the last sloka here. Yeah, last sloka to read, but there's another chart. Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. And so there is no need for hesitations. Okay, so the fact is that the soul is an indestructible living entity. So you have heard all these points that Krishna has put forth all the while. So he's saying the destruction is only for the body, it's not for the soul. So there is no reason for your lamentation. All right, so now that you are this is actually entering karma yoga already, yeah. Okay, until here is jnana yoga, difference between soul and bodies, but you need to have that knowledge to understand, and because of that, because you have this knowledge, and you have to perform your religious principles. Why this word is here, religious principle? Like I mentioned earlier, this is not a whimsical fighting. All right, is dharmic fighting for the reason that I have mentioned earlier, and because you are fighting for to re-establish the principles of religion, there is no reason for you to lament. There is no reason for you to hesitate. All right, so this way Lord Krishna has already defeated his argument on compassion. The real compassion is to fight. If you are compassionate, then you have to fight and kill them so that they can get fresh bodies, so that you don't let them continue their adharmic activities. So this is your real compassion. All right, this is your duty. And when you fight, you should fight according to the religious principles. Okay, so let's see what we have covered from 11 to 31. As a Kshatriya, he should not abandon his prescribed duties out of fear that his grandfather and teacher will die in the battle. So this is not an acceptable reason for Arjuna to stop the fighting. Oh, you cannot give your grandfather and teacher as a reason to stop fighting. So Krishna said, fight. But when you fight, you have to fight based on religious principles. Fight based on Varna and Ashrama, your duties. Your Varna and Ashrama is what? You are a Kshatriya. So when you're Kshatriya, you need to protect people. All right, so this is your duty. If you don't do the duty, then you are incurring sinful reactions. Okay, so the sinful reaction is not incurred when you're fighting. The sinful reaction you're incurring when you not fight, right? All right, so far Krishna has used arguments based on jnana yoga to induce Arjuna to fight. Okay, so we are moving to 2.37, where Krishna is refuting the second argument, no enjoyment. Okay, so let's analyze. Okay, Arjuna, you're going to fight. If you don't fight, you know what happens to you? People are going to call you coward, and certainly not befitting a Kshatriya. Okay, you're going to fight. So there are two possibilities. If you are going to win or you don't win. If you win, obviously you're going to enjoy earthly kingdom. The enjoyment is there. And if you do not win, you're going to enjoy your facilities in heavenly planets. So either way, you are going to have your enjoyment. You definitely will have your enjoyment. Even if you don't want to win, you will die and you will go to heavenly planets. And if you win, you will enjoy your earthly kingdom. So it's better than you running away from the battlefield. Okay, so in this way, Krishna is defeating his loss of enjoyment argument. Okay, so earlier Krishna used very elevated principle, body, soul, under the Jnana Yoga umbrella. Now he's using a less elevated principle. Let's enjoy. You want to enjoy? Okay, this is your karma. This is your work. Karma means work, right? Prescribed duty. You have to do this. Okay, this is the analysis that Krishna gives. Okay, so this is in full form, right? Oh, son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will be conquered and you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Okay, so that's okay. We are at the end now. K-Army. K-Army is a Bengali term. K-Army means who am I? This is Mahaprabhu. This is Sanatana Goswami. Now, Sanatana Goswami is posting a very important question. Okay, we have to understand this very important question. We have to be able to answer this question. All right, we have to know very clearly who we are. Just like we say, my hand, my leg, my head, my body. Who is the my? Who is the owner of the body? There is I and there is my body. So who am I in this body? I am the owner of the body. So who is the owner? The owner is the soul. Okay, the answer to who am I is you are not the body, you are the soul. All right, so the important point here is that we are not the body but the soul. And to go further, Mahaprabhu will explain that, and that we are part and parcel of Krishna. All right, and then Mahaprabhu takes to another level, saying that you are not only the soul, you are the servant of the Lord. The constitutional position of the soul is to serve the supreme soul, right? Super soul. Okay, so this is an important question. So at the end of this part 1 of chapter 2, we should be able to answer this question when somebody asks, who am I? Okay. All right, so let's talk about the facility that we have as a human. How are we so different from animal? We are giving an example here. You can see this is a government, you can see this is a very common scene in Tamil movies, Indian movies, right? When a minister passes by, all the traffic will be stopped. Even in Malaysia, the guard police will chase us all off the road, making the path very clear for the ministers to go, because they are given this facility to perform to discharge their duties seamlessly without any obstacles. Okay, so more facilities are given to government officer because he has to discharge important duties, right? They are given more facilities like car, some allowance, servants, special doctors. All right, this is all for him to carry out his duties correctly. But he has a responsibility. He has to make sure that whatever service he's doing, it has to be done properly. His department must be efficient and working properly. Okay, this is how he gives back to the community. Okay, all right, so let's see what happens here. Similarly, we are given this human body. We are not given this body. All right, so the same concept is for human life. There is difference between animal and human body. Animals are not going to do anything important. They're not given many facilities, right? They only engage in 4 activities: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And then animals cannot ask, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose of life? Where am I going after this? So they don't do that. They don't ask questions. They don't understand what is the self-realization. They don't need to understand what is the soul. All right. So whereas for human life, it is more than eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. We are different from animal because of the body that we have. This is a facility that Krishna has given us, all right, due to our past activities. So we want to appreciate that human life is meant for inquiring. All right, so we should think and ask, where am I going? Where am I going to go in my next life? When I leave this body, what's going to happen to me? All right. So we want to make proper use of this body. If we don't use this body properly, what happens? That means we are just like animals. All right. We are called 2-legged animals. So we are just going to go back to mating, sleeping, defending, and eating. All right. So we don't want to waste our human life. That otherwise, next life, there's high chance for us to fall down to the animal life. Okay. So if we live life like an animal, next life, we will get body like an animal. So this one all we already seen in level 1, right? Because we have covered all the chapters, like attaining the supreme chapter. So we will attain the body that we think of when we die. So remember that. All right, so it is important to make good use of this human life. Okay, so that's it. So we saw Arjuna's doubts, reasons, confusion, and his surrenders. And this is where the relationship changed from friends to guru and disciple. So after that, what happened? Okay, so Krishna gives knowledge from the angle of Jnana Yoga. Okay, there's another name, Sankhya Yoga, for this analytical study. So what we have seen today is the analytical study, the difference about the characteristic of soul, the difference between soul and body, what a soul is not and what a soul is, all that. Okay, so with this way, Krishna has refuted Arjuna's compassion argument. Right? There is no death for the soul, so fight. And then Krishna talks about your religious principle, your prescribed duties is to fight along the core of religious principles. So with that, you can have your enjoyment. And this will not be counted as sinful reactions. Okay, you perform your duty, you gain your material enjoyment. So fight. If you die in the battlefield, you will enjoy heavenly planet. So fight. Okay, it's better to fight and lose or fight and win instead of not fighting and fleeing the battlefield. Okay, so next week, okay, almost 9 already on time. So next week we will go into Buddhi Yoga. We are still in chapter 2. It will be part 2, and all working in Krishna consciousness. We are working, but in God consciousness, in Krishna consciousness. We talk about man in steady intelligence, Sthita Prajna. Okay, so we have done one round already in the beginning. That's all. Thank you so much. Any questions? Any questions, Matris? You would like to share anything, any realization? If you compare your level 1 and level 2, do you feel that you are learning more now? Or in the between gap, right? I think we had like about 2 months gap, right? Minimum. So how have your life have changed after learning about chapter 2 or and the entire Bhagavad Gita? You can share anything. Okay, that will inspire me as well. Anything, Mataji?
Can I share next week, Mataji, because I have to go.
Sorry?
Can I share next week, Mataji, because I have to go.
Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah, it's short
Sorry.
tonight. Can. Boleh. Okay, I'll see you
Thank
next
you,
week.
Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
I got 5 rounds to chant. I have to go.
Can. Okay, Mataji. So we will end the class here
Thank you.
now. I
Thank
will
you.
share the quiz and the PDF later. Mataji, can you drop me a message? WhatsApp? I'll add you in the group.
You put E will do.
Yeah, you can you WhatsApp me because I don't have your number.
Oh, WhatsApp you ah.
Oh, because Prabhu will share the quiz with you, is it?
Yeah, every time I got the quiz after finish this class.
Okay, then you can check with Prabhu then. Okay.
Yeah, you can check. Thanks.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.